Hello, Hofstra fans, and welcome to the W. Mason Coach Report with head women's lacrosse coach Shannon Smith. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Great, thanks for asking. 1-1 week last week, a win over Quinnipiac last Tuesday, and then a loss to number 2 Maryland on Saturday. Just give us a recap of the week that was in Hofstra women's lacrosse.
It was a good week. Great to get a win against Quinnipiac, and then we had a really tough game against Maryland. But I think we learned a lot about ourselves after that game against Maryland, and we're able to come out this week and really work hard and get better.
Let's start with the game earlier in the week against the Bobcats. You actually fell down to a really bad hole early on in that game, and it just didn't feel right. At what point, and you didn't call a timeout either, but what changed, or what did your team do to change the momentum in that game?
You're right, it was a bad hole. Quinnipiac, I believe it was 3 or 4-0 that got up on us. And I was very close to calling a timeout, but I wanted to go one more possession to see if our players could really be resilient out there on the field and be mentally tough enough and resilient enough to be able to overcome that deficit that we were in, because we might face one later on in the season where we're not going to be able to get down on ourselves. We're going to have to stay together as a team, and they were able to do that. We came down, I believe it was Darcy who scored that first goal, and then we were able to make some adjustments on the field. I thought in the second half, our defense, especially Shannon Boyle and Annalise Martin, really shut down their players who were scoring the goals and having the points on us, and Jess Smith did a really great job in the cage for us. So I think defensively we were really on lockdown in the second half, and I think we learned a lot about ourselves on how we can, when our backs are against the wall, how we can stay focused and stay together as a team and come out on the other side.
You've talked extensively this year about how much you think of your captains. Was that early game not calling the timeout and hoping for the momentum swing almost a challenge to your leadership of your team?
It definitely was a challenge to the leadership, and I think they really stepped up and rose to the occasion, and our team as a whole really banded together and fought really hard throughout that game to be able to get on that goal run to take the lead in the first half.
And you mentioned Darcy's goal, and then she had a really solid game, and she's been arguably your most well-rounded player all season. Let's talk about the development of her from freshman, sophomore to now her junior year.
Huge development. I think Darcy really, this year coming into a junior, put a lot of work in the summer and in the fall, is in tremendous shape right now. We asked her to take on a big role, taking some more of the heavy load of the draw controls for us this season, and she's been working really hard every day with it. So really happy to see the development of her, not only on the field, but also off the field as a leader.
And fellow junior Alyssa Perella, 6 goals against Quinnipiac, 2 more against Maryland, earned CA Player of the Week accolades. What'd you see her again for her against Quinnipiac specifically? Obviously, she didn't play much against Maryland.
Yeah, I think it was really exciting. Obviously, Alyssa had that unbelievable goal, no-look goal that was on ESPN, top 10 place. I think that was really exciting, and I think Alyssa's really starting to hit her stride now, and getting really comfortable within the offense and putting up some big numbers for us on the offensive side of the field. And I think that by Darcy taking those draws, it allows Alyssa to have some more energy on the offensive side of the field to capitalize on her opportunities and use her speed in transition and play some great defense for us as well. So I think it's been really exciting to watch Alyssa's development through the month of February, and just kind of really excited to see where this goes in the month of March. And unfortunately, she was off to a really great start against Maryland, but had those 2 yellow cards. And she's been working really hard this week, so I'm excited to see her play against Hopkins.
Yeah, and not so much about Alyssa, more about like what it means for your program and the university. Getting a play from women's lacrosse and Sports Center had to be exciting for you and your program, and I'm sure you heard from people all over you hadn't heard from in a while.
It was huge. We received a lot of text messages from alumni, friends, people from all over the place to be able to see that play, and not only just from, obviously for the game, to see a woman's play on for lacrosse on Sports Center is huge, but I also think for our program to get our name out there, especially with how much we've done this year so far, I think was really huge, and it was exciting for the alumni to see as well. So, thanks to Alyssa for putting that shot in, but just really exciting overall for the program and the university.
And you just mentioned you're off to a solid 4-2 start this year. What are your thoughts on where you are through 6 games right now?
Good. I think we're starting to learn a little bit about ourselves, especially defensively and offensively. I think we faced a lot of adversity in our first 6 games, which I think is exciting because even whether it was a win or a loss, we were able to learn a lot about ourselves. And our team is super young. Sometimes we're starting 6 to 7 freshmen, so for them to have this much knowledge underneath them nice and early before we get into really the tough part of our schedule here in March and right before we get into conference play, I think is good for us.
Speaking of your tough schedule, you're about to play your 3rd ranked team of the year already this season. You put together a great schedule again for your program. It's a big one. You're home against Johns Hopkins on Saturday. What are your thoughts going into a game where your program has a big opportunity this weekend?
Huge opportunity, and I think our program knows that, understands that. The girls are really excited about it in the locker room, and we've just been working really hard this week. Hopkins is a really great team. It's going to be a really great challenge, but we're really excited for it.
What are the keys to victory against the Blue Jays this Saturday?
Draw controls, definitely draw controls. We got to be able to control the possessions to give us more opportunities on the offensive side of the field. I think offensively we have to be very disciplined to be able to run our motions and our sets, and then defensively we have to really play a really solid defense and communicate well with our matchups.
And it's a 3rd doubleheader with the men's lacrosse team. So Saturday, Hofstra women's lacrosse versus Johns Hopkins at 3 p.m. They're the 2nd game. 1st game, Hofstra men's lacrosse versus Ohio State here at James M. Stewart Stadium. Coach, good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us in the W. Mason Coach Report with head women's lacrosse coach Shannon Smith.